Hello, and welcome to Technology and Sustainability for Living in Contemporary Global Cities. This is a panel organized by Euro Milano, the Italian company, as part of Climate Week New York City 2025. It's a pleasure for me to participate. My name is Andrew Spanis. I was born in New York City. I hope New York continues to be a showcase for the world, and a successful one, and not always maybe. We have a lot to talk about. We have 4 experts here with us. We'll talk about environmental economics, Internet of Things, smart lighting, artificial intelligence, a broad range of topics which will provide both useful details and also an overview of the situation we're in today and how it can be improved, specific projects and examples of what is being done, in particular in Milan, Italy. This is the 5th time that Euro Milano has participated in Climate Week. We're happy to be here, and to start us off, we'll have the president of Euro Milano, Luigi Borré, to talk about sustainable urban development and territorial governance.
Thank you, Andrew. Welcome also from my side to this new Climate Week New York City 2025. As you said, it is the 5th edition of this event promoted by Euro Milano for the Milan venue. And as you can see, it's therefore becoming a sort of tradition. Let me explain what is our goal, Euro Milano's goal in organizing this event each year. Our company is a real estate developer that has made investments in large areas in Milan. And our activity deals with making the city grow and evolve based on the needs of the citizens and citizenships as a whole. Our attitude is not only to comply with current people needs, but also to promote, let's say, an healthy growth of the city, both in the perspective of its immediate future, as well as with a long-run perspective that I'd like to underline. In the case of the cities, is measured in tens, if not in hundreds of years. This approach has to do with the idea of sustainable growth, and this is one of our main goals. Every year, Euro Milano elaborated the general title of the Climate Week, considering its implications in the urban perspective. For example, in the past editions, we discussed about climate crisis and urban regeneration, that was in 2021, and future of urban mobility, that was in year 2022. Even if Euro Milano's task is to innovate and implement solutions for the future of the cities, therefore we also could bring our own experience today. Our attitude in this specific occasion is not to speak, but mainly to listen and to be stimulated by our guests for our future activity, to be inspired for our future activities. Hence, many thanks to all of our prominent panelists and to our moderator, Andrew. Andrew, the floor is yours. Thank you.
Thank you, Luigi, and thank you to Euro Milano for organizing this. I can say that having known this company for a few years, they are definitely very interested and very active in promoting new solutions here in Milan. Now, sustainability has become a key concept in recent years, but it leads also to different interpretations. There's certain flexibility and some ambiguity in how it's interpreted. So the actual efficiency and effectiveness of technological choices, organization choices, is not guaranteed. It requires translating our general goals into specific initiatives. That's in terms of energy consumption, urban mobility, waste management, environmental quality. All these are woven together with new technologies, which we hope will make our lives easier. Sometimes technologies make things difficult for a while. The point is we have to make sure that they are creating efficiency, not only at the individual level, but as a whole. In the context of urban living, we will now focus somewhat we're required to focus on individual consumption, but we have to seek to create meta processes that allow us to move towards a renewed organization of the urban fabric as a whole. And the planning of residential projects also should be a part of this. So we'll begin with our roundtable now. Our first speaker will be Professor Eduardo Croci from Bocconi University. We'll talk about environmental economics and urban climate policies. I'd ask Professor to give us an overview, start out at least with an overview of the environmental issues facing cities, a bit of a progress report, please.
Thank you. Actually, Milan is a global city, like other cities with the same characteristics in terms of innovation and attraction. And Milan, in this way, can be considered as an example of application of several innovations in the environmental and social domain. I want to start more broadly in general, considering how to look at the sustainability of cities in the present context. And first of all, I think there is a question of scale. We have to consider several scales at the same time for sustainability. First of all, we have to consider the scale of a single building, of course, where a lot of innovation happened in the last years. But we also have to consider, of course, innovation at the general level of cities, thinking of several services related to citizens and to communities. And also we have to consider, and I think this is the most important, the intermediate scale of districts where several solutions can be applied. Looking at different scales means also to look at different sectors in an integrated way. This means looking at how energy is produced and distributed, but also looking at the buildings, at how they are actually built and managed, and also look at other domains such as mobility, which of course is key in terms of influencing individual behaviors, and looking at nature, green infrastructures, also called nature-based solutions, play a very relevant role also in terms of functions they can play and that can play naturally without using and consuming resources. And finally, another integrated aspect we have to consider is looking at all these aspects and at environmental impacts through a life cycle view. This means looking at the different phases where environmental impacts like pollution or climate emissions are generated, and looking where you can intervene. If you think about the building, of course, you can look at the construction phase, and you should look at all the materials and the life cycle of these materials. And you should look at management of buildings. So looking at both embodied and operational carbon now is key. And this means you need the matrix and the capacity of planning, measuring, and reporting all these aspects. Also, you need to look at different dimensions. Of course, climate emissions, greenhouse gas emissions are now a key indicator. But of course, there are several aspects you should look: air pollution, waste, water emissions, soil consumption. All these aspects should be considered together in an integrated way. Looking at these dimensions means trying to build smart and resilient cities where all these dimensions are integrated and where environmental, social, and economic aspects are also put together. To conclude this general overview, this framework, I think that you should also consider the value aspect. I'm an economist working at the university. Of course, we measure value, which means considering also social value meaning negative and positive externalities generated by production and consumption activities. While in a sustainable city and applying smart and resilient solutions means to look at the economic advantage in terms of energy efficiency or management efficiency that, of course, are immediately perceivable. Think about a building, but it also means think at different integrated solutions you can have where you use the same infrastructure for several aspects. Think about recharging stations, which can also play as lamppost or other functions. And finally, and most important, it means looking at the positive and negative externalities generated from these kind of solutions, where benefits don't pass through prices, but pass through a better life and quality of life of citizens, which is key. To really conclude, Milan, I think, is a good example of innovation of all these aspects. Just to mention a few relevant technological innovation, district heating, mobility sharing, smart metering in different domains are aspects where the city and the utilities operating the cities invested a lot. And thanks to these aspects, the city can have data, can manage in efficient way services, and can also communicate and report these aspects. Of course, we have also to learn from other cities. We can learn and teach at the same time. And this is a continuous process where innovation must be fed. Thank you again.
Thank you, Professor Croci. Could you take just 1 minute? You spoke of measuring things not through prices, but through a better life. How do you make it possible for private investors to put a value on this? Because obviously money drives the market. So it's one thing for the public administration to set these goals, another for private actors.
Surely, many kind of solutions depend on the interaction of public and private actors. Of course, public actors can drive innovation in different ways through regulations, through economic incentives and disincentives, and also through moral suasion or information, creating awareness in different stakeholders, first of all, in citizens. While, as you said, private operators are mainly driven through efficiency and economic aspects. If there is a good interaction and capacity also to innovate in policies, I think it is possible to align public and private targets. And in some cases, I would say that in the housing sector, the real estate sector, this is true in this moment. In some way, the main interest of a public actor is to create livable spaces, to create spaces where energy efficiency and carbon neutrality are relevant targets, and to create parks and green infrastructures open to the collectivity. In most cases, these aspects are now appreciated by the market. They constitute key elements to give a higher value, a premium price, a premium value, also to the real estate, in the real estate market. So in this case, I would say that there is the possibility of alignment between private and public targets. This is something that can happen spontaneously because markets evolve and there is consciousness by citizens and customers. And it is something that, of course, the public actor can promote through different instruments, as I said, trying to get to align the activity of private actors. We have good examples and bad examples. The point is to follow the best practices and the good examples, and to define policies and measures that go in that direction. and also to create regulatory and market interaction ways with the private actors in order to get real action and real results.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. Now, our next speaker will be Stefania Gilli from Vodafone. She's the director of Vodafone IoT Italy, and who will, a private company, obviously a large private company, will talk about the technological vision for smart cities and IoT solutions. Please.
Thanks a lot, Andrew, and thanks to Aero Milano for giving me the opportunity to discuss some critical topics of sustainable cities and also some best practices that are shaping our urban future. I think that reshaping cities is so important, but why? So let me show some figures. So what are these numbers? Let me tell you. So first, 70% actually is the percentage of, is currently the impact, sorry, in terms of emissions generated by cities in the world, all inclusive. And 50% is the percentage of the people living in cities or in urban areas in 2024. And this number is going to increase because analysts are estimating that by 2030, 2/3 of population will live in cities. So this means that, let's say, in the future, it's even more essential to make cities more sustainable. Let me focus on some examples which to define a sustainable city. Sustainable city, I think it's a city which is actively working to foster the health and the well-being of their people and also of the natural environment. There are very well-known examples of sustainable cities around the globe. Let's think about Copenhagen, Oslo, Vancouver, Singapore. And why? What have these cities in common? I think they are characterized by their commitment to reducing the environmental impact, enhancing the quality of life, and also promoting economic growth through innovation. There are several best practices which are very well known around the globe for these sustainable cities. First, public transportation. We know that an efficient and accessible public transportation system is the backbone of a sustainable city. In fact, public transportation not only reduces traffic congestion, but also lowers the greenhouse emissions. For instance, our Milan Tech Bus project, co-developed by Vodafone and the municipality of Milan, is leveraging on 5G and IoT technologies combined to enhance public transport efficiency and safety. Second best practice is real-time environmental monitoring, because monitoring environmental impact in real time allows cities to respond to pollution and other environmental challenges. Adopting a proactive approach ensures that cities remain clean and healthy for their residents, but also for the visitors and tourists. Here, IoT is really Internet of Things is playing an important role, as all use cases are relying on a wide distribution of connected sensors, and our role as Vodafone IoT is to ensure that data are available in a secure way when they are needed. For instance, here in Milan, we have a very wide 5G network, which is helping in this direction. Optimized public services is also very important because sustainable cities are optimizing public services such as waste management, parking, and lighting through technology. One of the main area, which is very popular now is water management. So there are, we are deploying, for instance, smart meters in Italy, but also Spain. And also we are trying to connect a real-time water pipeline in order to identify leakages as soon as possible, as water is becoming more and more scarce. The reduction of carbon dioxide emissions is also very important. And here, I mean, we need not only to monitor, but also to prevent and predict possible increases. I think that about smart grids is something that my colleague from NLX will discuss later on. And so let me conclude about smart mobility with the bike sharing, car sharing, and increase usage of electric and hybrid vehicles. I think that the common thread among these best practices is the robust technology infrastructure that enables their implementation. I mean, we need to think about the next generation networks and IoT connectivity, and our collaboration with the cities like Milan demonstrates that the transformative power of technology in creating smarter and greener urban environments. So I think that I can conclude saying that really smart cities and sustainable cities are already achievable today through innovation, collaboration, and dedication to environmental responsibility.
Thank you. Could I ask you to put you on the spot if you were to talk in particular about Milan, the projects, and you're speaking to people in New York City and other people around the world, what do you think is has really driven one or two projects that have really driven the change in recent years here?
Okay, so I mentioned this Tech Bus project. It's a project on a key circular route in Milan, and I mean, which was ideal in order to test connected mobility. So it's really a combination of the power of 5G technology with IoT, because and we gave buses a real upgrade. With what we call a vehicle to infrastructure. Basically, the buses and the routes they are traveling are loaded with sensors and connected gadgets. With real-time data, the system can predict problems, adjust bus routes, and also keep everything working like a clock. So this means less downtime, more energy savings, and also, of course, happier riders, because you know exactly when your bus is coming, whether there is space to grab a seat, and if there are any delays. And so this is making public transport a lot less stressful and way more appealing. And of course, because the system helps Milan to roll out more electric and hybrid buses, it's also contributing in lowering carbon dioxide emissions. Another very good example here in Milan is also the experimentation that we made with several partners, more than 40 use cases that we started develop in 2019 with the rollout of the 5G network. For instance, today you have metro lines which are completely covered with 5G. So, for instance, you have a great experience for commuters, that because you enter the metro near your house and you go to the airport without experiencing any downtime or any connections fault. So it's really a great experience, great example, which really improved the people living in Milan, but also, as I said before, of people visiting and also traveling every day to Milan.
Okay, thank you. Now we will move on to Massimiliano Franconi from Enel Italy. Enel is a large utility on the market, and Massimiliano Franconi will talk to us about smart lighting for sustainable cities.
Thank you, Andrew, for having me. I'm currently leading the business to government area within the Italian retail at Enel. Core business is public lighting, and we are currently market leader, managing more than 1.6 million lighting points. So it's a pleasure to join the discussion today and to share Enel's visions and experience on public lighting, a topic that might sound simple, maybe boring, but in reality is far more strategic and exciting than most people think. Public lighting, in fact, is no longer just about keeping streets bright at night. It's becoming a strategic asset for sustainable, digital, and safer cities. It's turning a sort of platform that enables a wide range of smart services for cities. For decades, in fact, public lighting has been static, energy intensive, and costly to maintain. Cities were locked into infrastructure with high consumptions, high maintenance costs, and very cost in managing it. So today, with LED technologies, sensors, connectivity, and digital platforms, public lighting is evolving into an intelligent and adaptive system. For example, it can detect presence and traffic patterns, adjust light level dynamically in real time, and reduce energy use, and of course, emissions. At the same time, it opens the way for new city services, becoming a sort of node for a larger digital ecosystem, making of the public lighting an enabler for sustainability, both for environmental and economic. But this change is not only technological, it's also about the business model. Switching from old lamps to LED lamps and leveraging on adaptive and intelligent system, we can cut energy consumption up to 70%. The economic value of this saving is the engine of the financing model. So the mechanism is simple. The service providers invest upfront. The municipality reduces service bill, and part of their saving repays the investments. So the city spends less, the providers recover the capitals, and citizens enjoy a better service, safer and greener. So sort of everybody win model, win for the environment, win for municipality, win for the investors, and win for the citizens. The benefit for the citizens and for the city extend well beyond the energy saving. Once connected, the lighting infrastructures become a host for multiple services. For example, sensor for quality monitoring, cameras for traffic management, cameras for public safety, 5G microcells. The poles can be integrated with electric vehicle charging points or public Wi-Fi and many others. To give you some concrete example application that we did in the Italian projects. In one city, smart lighting was integrated with quality sensors, parking management, and adaptive traffic control, improving mobility and reducing emissions. In another city, we installed public safety cameras directly on our lighting system and infrastructures, helping to create a safer neighborhoods. So basically, each project is unique, but the approach is always the same. Start from the public lighting infrastructures and build an ecosystem. And this way, public lighting become a sort of digital backbone for the city. At Enel, we are pushing these transformations further with data and artificial intelligence. For example, the designs always starts with sensors of existing lighting point. You had to go pole by pole, which took ages. Now we can do it much faster with satellite images and machine learning. We map and classify everything, and our tools analyze the data and check risk and standardize requirements. So we save time, avoid mistake, and speed up all the delivery activities. But innovation is not only about the efficiency, it's also, and above all, about safety. For example, one of the crucial activities is checking the condition of lighting poles. That means field inspections. That is slow, that's expensive. Problems are often found once damage is visible or unfortunately too late. So we are now developing an AI-based algorithm that predict the structural health of poles by analyzing environmental data, corrosion patterns, and even satellite images can detect early warning signs of deterioration well before they appear. And that makes preventive maintenance and timely replacement possible, reduce usually the risk of accidents. In conclusion, smart lighting is far more than an upgrade of old infrastructures. It's a lever for climate actions, a driver for digital transformations, and most importantly, a tool to improve safety and quality of life. To keep going in this direction, we need strong partnership between public and private actors, between utilities and technology providers, keeping, of course, the citizen at the centers of our choice. Thank you.
Thank you. A question for you also. I imagine that there are, and I actually have some personal experience with it, there are various companies which propose their lights, their smart lighting solutions to cities. Is there a difficulty for the cities in integrating? Do they have to choose all from one company? Is that hard for you in terms of convincing them to choose a certain platform, or are these things interchangeable?
The process to deal with public administration is well described in the rule and the law. So if you wanted to promote something, there's a project financing method. So you can promote your own project. Then the public administrations goes to other players, ask the same project, and then decide which one is better for them. And then they launch a tender. So the way you interact with the customer, that is a very well organized customers, is regulated through this process. So first, a project financing where you design, promote your idea, then select others proposal from other proponents, then decide which one is the one who goes up for tender, and then you go to tender. Whenever you are selected like a promoters, you got a last call during the tender action. That's the advantage that you get from promoting something to the public administration.
Okay. Thank you. Now we will move on to our last speaker, but then we'll come back to everyone for a couple of minutes, since everyone's being very good in terms of time. Professor Luca Mottola from the NYC of the Milan Polytechnic University, talking about applied research, who works on applied research and technological innovation, who will talk to us about sustainable AI or sustainable urban environmental management. Prego.
Thank you, Andrew. At Polytechnic, I'm the head of the Networked Embedded Software Lab. And our mission at the lab is to develop the IoT technology of tomorrow. And I guess it goes without saying that what we heard from the other panelists is that nowadays we do have technology that serves sustainability. Our goal at the lab is actually to make technology sustainable per se, which means detaching the operation of these devices from the traditional means of powering their operation and catering for connectivity. Now, the picture here shows you one of the very early prototypes that we have been working on. This is a fully functional miniaturized sensor device that is completely autonomous in its operation. It's powered by the miniaturized sensor cell that you see on the top, and it transmits data by using a technology that's called backscatter that doesn't require its own carrier generator. It actually opts into existing carriers, for example, those of the cellular network. These devices can operate roughly for 1 month without any intervention. It is sustainable per se because it doesn't require any intervention into the environment where it's deployed. But this is actually our end goal, and as it happens often when we are confronted with a long-term vision, we need to get there with small incremental steps. What we're doing is actually made concrete at the urban park of the uptown area, urban regeneration area where Euro Milano is operating on multiple accounts. And we had this unique opportunity there to deploy some of the technologies we are developing at the lab and see them in action. In particular, what we did there was to experiment with machine learning algorithms that we have developed to gain a better understanding of the ecosystem that's playing out in that area. The role of urban parks in the planning and general management of metropolitan areas is not to be underestimated. the interplay that happens between how the citizens live a certain area and what is the environment and the greenery in that same area is being subject of multiple studies. What we are trying to do is to help biologists and the people at Euromilano gain additional insight into what's happening at the urban park of the Uptown area. Concretely speaking, we have developed a fully functional prototype of an autonomous device that doesn't require any external connection and is able, through a custom designed microphone, to listen to the sounds of nature in the urban park and understand, for example, what kind of birds and what kind of bird species are populating the area, which is an activity that a biologist used to carry out manually with periodic site visits. But with these hour per day for the whole year, raising the level of data that is available to the biologists and the people working at Euromilano. We have gone the whole 9 yards. We have deployed these devices at the urban park, and it's currently operating, and we are seeing the data coming in. The data we are already serving to the biologists to first check whether our detections are correct, and second, to plan the long-term use of the data. What you see here is a snapshot of the dashboard that provides the a visualization of the data at stake. You can see, for example, what is the number of different birds that were detected over a given time span, or, for example, what is the fraction of birds of a certain species that were detected in a different zone of a different slice of the park. And this is just the beginning. We are fortunate enough that together with Euromilano, we can have a playground where to deploy this technology. The next step is actually to improve the system in a way that it can not just detect the birds, but it can also track them around the park. So we'll be able to provide information on what bird moved in what direction throughout the whole year. And this is immensely valuable for the biologists because this is data that they wouldn't have available otherwise. This is one concrete example of how we can make technology sustainable and still serve the needs of sustainability in a broader context. And it's a good example because it connects the practice with the research. Our research at the lab at Politecnico in particular is very much applied. We are an engineering school, so we are not just playing with ideas, but we're also making them concrete. And this is, I think, a primary example of our kind of research being put into daily use. And this is thank you for the time, and I'll be happy to answer questions.
Thank you. I have a quick first question. What is the feedback result, for example, on these birds? You have this information. What actions then do you take within the park, the Euromilano park? You need more certain types of birds, or you're just monitoring there, on a larger level?
So the monitoring of the bird species will feed essentially the next design cycle of the urban park. Placing certain structures in certain areas of the park, like trees or other kind of greenery, may help some species of birds locate in certain areas of the park, or it may help repopulate the park with species that should be there, but they're probably not finding the environment that is suitable for their living there. It's basically data that feeds an entire design cycle for the urban park. The deployment actually started end of June, so we are really at the very first iteration of this cycle.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you. That concludes our first round. We still have a little time left, so I am going to give you each a few more minutes. My general question to all of you is to, based on what you've heard, there's two questions really. Based on what you've heard from others here, what do has something been added to your understanding which you think fits in, creates synergy, cooperation with what each one of you are doing, but also what are the investments that are needed now? What are the actions that are needed? We have two sides. There's public investment and there's private. Where do we go next? What's the next step? That's what I'd ask you to think about, as you add something to our conversation. I would start out again with Professor Croce. To drive innovation, you said that we have to align public and private. So what needs to be done to do this better today? That would be my question for you. I'd give you each 3 minutes or so.
First of all, I think that it is necessary to rethink our cities looking at climate change. We really need to adapt, and adaptation happens at the local level. There are extreme events happening with major frequency. We have floods in our cities. We have situations of emergency which are unplanned and that can cause several damages. This thing that looking at both urban development and urban regeneration, we really need to take into account climate, and there is a lot of space also for innovation in this context, and this is key in terms of new functionalities, new services, in terms of preparedness, in terms of management, in terms of alerts, in terms of remediation. All these aspects are now emerging and key. And as you said, they require investments, which are both public and private investments. The dimension of this investment is quite huge. It depends, of course, of specific cities, because local aspects are very relevant. But in this moment, I would say that putting together mitigation and adaptation as two key elements of investments, all major cities should plan this kind of interventions. The key point, I think, is not attributing to public or private the investment, but is to find solutions which can provide a return. And when you have a return and the return is measurable, you can think about repayable instruments. This means that if you have a return in terms of energy efficiency, or even in terms of increased resilience and reduction of damages or insurance costs, you can repay your investments, and then either the public or the private or partnerships can be the solutions. But the key point, I think, is to individuate the benefits of intervention, and then to innovate even in financial instruments for increasing resilience, and to pursue mitigation at the same time, looking into an integrated way. Thanks.
Being in Milan and Italy most of the time, I've gotten whiplash in the past few years. Until 2 or 3 years ago, we were told it's never going to rain anymore. It's going to be dry. And then in Milan, it rained more than for 200 years in the first half of the year. Is there a problem of short-term thinking as opposed to deciding, okay, what do we need to do for the city? Are there problems that are long-term problems we need to get around, or do we need to rethink? Really rethink how the city is being developed?
I think that the point is that change happened so rapidly that there was no adequate planning for this emerging situation. The frequency of events which happened once every 100 years now maybe happen every 30, 20, 10 years, and so on. And this means that most of our infrastructures and services have to be rethought. In Milan, as you mentioned, we have problems sometimes of blackouts, of flooding, of interruption of public transportation services because of these situations. There was a big episode where several trees fell because of the wind, which is something absolutely unique in the case of Milan. So we really have to rethink the city in a different climate. This means both long-term thinking with planning and urban regeneration, but also short-term thinking, and also informing people about how to behave in situation of emergency, which are more frequent.
Okay, thank you. Stefania Gilli, it's your turn. A general question to you again, what the next steps are, what you see, anything you've sort of gathered from the conversation here. And also, Internet of Things and having data is extremely important. It helps us do things, but then we need to act, right? And then we need to act. Where do you see the most urgent need for using the data that you're able to provide?
Yeah, I think that it's not a technology problem. Okay, from a technology point of view, everything is there. It's a matter of understanding how to deploy, what to prioritize. And it's probably a combination of public and private interest and how they can be combined in order to pay off the investments. We, as a telecommunication service provider, of course, our role is to enable, network being available everywhere with reliable communication. And as I said, this is something which is available here, like many places in many urban places in the world. We live in a small city, so Professor Croci said depicted it quite in a dramatic way. But I think that we can really start from what we did here in order to make it more and more available and to scale it down from Milan also to the suburbs, because one of the biggest issue here is also the commuting life. People who are traveling daily to Milan can experience several failures, several issues in their day-by-day life. So I think that now maybe it's time to understand how to combine the public and the private interests in order to set it down and to have a win-win deployment. It's as I said, technologies are available now. And it's only a matter of probably finding the right combination and prioritizing in the proper way. I'm very positive on this.
Mm-hmm. So you think we're going in the right direction? We have the tools today. We have the tools, and we can.
Yeah, the tools. Exactly. It's not. We have really a fantastic 5G network, okay, and it is used by a fraction of the power. Whilst you can enable real-time data. For instance, we are working actively in several public areas in order to enable digital twins. So you can imagine that having a digital twin about transportation, about logistic hubs would be a fantastic tool in order to improve everybody's life, because if you can understand, for instance, you would know that you are a truck driver, you need to bring your goods into a certain hub, and if you would know that your slot would be available from 10:35 to 10:40, you just present up there at the proper time without having to queue for 1 hour, maybe in summer under the sun with air conditioning on, polluting a lot. And this would help everyone. And this is, as I said, it's something that it's already available because we have a fantastic 5G network. Not only Milan, by the way, but in vast majority of the Italian territory. We have cloud platforms available to send data. We have AI applications to elaborate data. So everything is already there. It's just a matter of making it making it real and to scale it down at all the levels for all users.
Okay, thank you. Massimiliano Francone, the same general question to you, but I also have a specific question. What's the percentage, I don't know if you know in Milan or in general, of smart lighting? How far do we have to go? Are we just at the beginning, or is Italy moving forward quickly? Your microphone is off.
Sorry, unfortunately, you're breaking up. I don't know if my fault or something else. Can you come back again with the question, please?
Yes, my question was, in addition to talking about the next steps and anything you might have picked up from the discussion here, if you know what percentage, more or less, we have in Milan or in parts of Italy of smart lighting, and is there a long way to go, or is
no? So the smart lighting, the two-phase, the efficiency is well mature. So we are at a very good point. So the replacement of all lamps into LED plants is a very good stage. And that, I think, if I had to give you a percentage, probably we're going to stay around 60-65%, including Italy. So not only big city, but a small town. So the process is pretty advanced. In terms of smart lighting, so we all the accessories that I mentioned before, there's a long way to walk. In big center like Milan or other big city, they are pretty advanced. But if you go to the small town or medium town, really they are just at the beginning. So there's a lot of activities to create. Unfortunately, the advantage coming from the energy efficiency, this usual reduction that I mentioned, the 70%, help the investment in relamping. But the investment in smart lighting need investment from the public. So that's the main barrier. And then, of course, you need to have a proper network in every part of Italy. That's another part of the business. So from that point of view, there's a lot to do. I think we can have a huge improvement in the next 10 years.
Okay, thank you. And I'm sorry if my signal's breaking up sometimes. It's raining, so obviously we have a problem. So there's a limited simple technological problem today. For some reason, here in these offices, the network isn't working quite as well. I hope it's not because there's too much water on the streets. But to conclude, we'll go with Luca Mottola. Can you tell us also about other projects you're working on, other projects you think that can be extended to the city or also internationally, since we have an international audience?
Well, what we are doing, which is in a way complementary compared to what we have been discussing, is to look at how we can make use of off-the-shelf hardware in nanosatellite systems and get yet another point of view on how metropolitan areas evolve and what is the impact of technology on the ground on the way we design and operate cities. Nanosatellite technology is becoming democratized, we say. The cost of launching nanosatellite is not being so excessive in the last 4 to 5 years. So we have one more opportunity to have another point of view on how technology impacts everyday life. My lab in particular is looking at how do we design and implement nanosatellites that can gather image data on metropolitan areas throughout time, and with the collection of the data over a sufficiently long time span, we'll be able to draw conclusions on how certain interventions on the ground have impacted the evolution of the metropolitan areas. This is again something that's just the beginning compared to what the other panelists have discussed. As a university, I see our goal as to provide the prototypes that maybe will be taken up in 3 or 5 years by the industry. And in this sense, I would like to echo what Stefania argued before, but shifted one level up. The technology is there, but even the future technology is almost there. So what we need are additional efforts to try and deploy this technology to gather feedback and from the experience, and then feed a virtuous cycles that will be instrumental to improve the technology, and especially the way technology is used by the citizens, by those in charge of designing the future cities and operating the cities of today. Polytechnic, not just my department, but the university at large is trying to, often in collaboration with industry, is trying to pour a lot of effort into these kind of work in these directions, and I'm confident that we'll soon see the outcomes of these massive investments that are currently being planned. Thank you.
Thank you. This brings us to our conclusion. Can you hear me properly? This brings us to our conclusion. I think we've definitely provided some specific technological solutions. It's very interesting to hear that we have, and many of you have pointed out, certain specific things which can take us forward. There obviously are some bottlenecks, some blocks, some areas we need to put forward. I find fascinating the question of the interplay between what's regulatory driven and what's market driven. As was said at the beginning, the key thing here is to try to get public and private working, in my view, working in the same direction. Obviously, that can't be imposed, though. That's delicate. It's a delicate process. It's a delicate balance, and we don't have and no one has the one specific formula of saying this is exactly how it has to work. And it's unlikely to work that way. What we do have is we have experiments, we have data, and we can thank in particular Milano not only for organizing this panel, but also for attempting to bring some of these things together, give it a good case study, help us maintain and gain an overview of how these processes can work. And then hopefully we can use that for a broader international discussion, and that will be continued at New York City Climate Week this year and next year as well. So thank you to all of our speakers. Thank you for being here, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.
Thank you, all of you.